All right, let's see how far we get this time.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead. It's a brand new day.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale.
Now prepare to experience the most outrageous man on radio.
The station for more fun in the sun.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
Good morning.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
Oh, no.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That's some very hot coffee, I'll tell you that. That's one thing we know for sure. All I had was about 4 or 5 prunes for breakfast today. Completely out of breakfast food in the house. The station for some more. What was it?
The station for more fun in the sun.
Yeah, yippee-yi-yay. That's the truth. Today's supposed to be a sunny day, so let's get right to it.
The Weather Watch forecast.
Now, it's saying it's 48 degrees outside. That's quite a difference from yesterday when it was 39. I could have actually planted, but it's just as well I wait. Though they're pushing, it back. They're saying it. Today's Tuesday the 10th. I don't even know if this weather updated because it's showing Tuesday on like the projection list and saying the low is going to be 45, but the low is not going to be 45. It's contradicting itself in its own app. But anyway, it's going to get up to 73 today and 45 tonight. I don't know. Well, yeah, that does make sense, but that means I can't plant today. I really don't want to plant until I know it's like 50 out at night. Tomorrow's going to be 75 in the day, 48 at night. Thursday, 75 in the day, 57 at night. I guess, man, I should be patient enough and wait till Thursday to plant. I don't know. Maybe I will. I'll have to think about this. Friday, 20% chance of rain. I think it's going to rain. Saturday, 50% chance of thunderstorms and rain. I think it's going to rain. I think we're going to have a crappy weekend, man. So that's a little advance.
Weekend weather.
And we're at it. And they're off. I didn't even see the Kentucky Derby this year. I was so out of it. I was so out of it because things were just so out of control in my life. And I was having all these I don't know, crazy, weird attacks. Physical attacks, spiritual attacks, I don't know, demonic, whatever. As he slurps his coffee, the title of this show is Most Don't See the Forest for the Trees. And I put in the chat, like the song says, and that's a play on Game Over, which is one of my better songs. And, if you haven't heard that song, I know I have a copy of that here. Game Over. Sometimes if you take a little break, you don't get a copyright hit. I get a copyright hit on my own songs. This should have been a hit, like #1 hit. I know, top 100. I mean,
It's not hard to see the things have gotten from bad to worse everywhere.
well, I got a copyright hit there. I actually let it play a little bit too long.
Brilliant.
You bright. All right, so here we go. Another Flow of Consciousness show. Small Band-Aid on the bruise on my knee. Scary bruise you just got a quick glimpse of over there. I ran out of big bandages. Today I'm going to order food. Well, it's actually a big decision. It's a decision on whether I decide to take a walk. I had a pasta meal. People don't believe me when I say this. If I eat my normal salads and, whatever, just food, regular foods, it's no big deal. And I'm outside doing work and stuff like that. And my weight stays the same. No big deal. Yesterday I had some egg noodles with some sauce and some leftover. I had some kale from the backyard thrown in with it, blah, blah, blah. And I gained a couple pounds. And I say every time I eat pasta, I gain a couple pounds overnight. It's ridiculous. And yes, I had a BM before I weighed myself. If you understand. So isn't that weird? It's those carbs. The carbs with me, my metabolism and stuff, It's so weird. And I have this weird, I don't know, it's just kind of a goofy thing, but I have a doctor's appointment next Monday. You got to weigh in, and it's like I want to weigh. I've been at this fairly low, decent weight for weeks now. And I don't want to all of a sudden weigh in there because weigh in there, you're weighing with a couple pounds of clothes on you, right? Which they never consider, Sometimes I'll take my shoes off, but, it's not your weight, if you're wearing, in the wintertime, if you're wearing a heavy pair of blue jeans and a shirt and a sweater over it, and they say, get on the scale. Well, man, you're wearing 3-4 pounds of clothes, Put blue jeans, a heavy tee, and a big sweater on a scale sometime. See what you weigh. So there goes the skull check. But anyway, I have this thing where I want to be under a certain weight. I want to weigh in so, it's realistic. I don't want to just having had to eat pasta because my garden hasn't grown to its full, maturity yet. I probably won't be getting lettuce out of it and lots of kale and chard for another week. Garbage day. All right, here's another weird side thing. And, okay, so I saw this video yesterday that they were talking about people that they're passing me, so it must have been recycling day. And I don't recycle because I didn't use anything recyclable. Don't drink soda, any of that stuff. I have some bottled water, but I've been refilling the bottles, unfortunately, with my Brita pitcher because I ran out of bottled water. I have nothing to recycle whatsoever. But I saw this video, and it was about how to get the most nutrients out of kale or something. And it was about, putting it in a brine. What do they call that? Fermenting it, okay? And it's a simple not a simple process, but basically this woman was showing you chop up the kale and you shove it in. You really pound it into some kind of mason jar, and then you pour in brine, which is just basically sea salt and water, all right? And then you make sure that the brine covers the kale, so you've got to have it weighted down somehow, and you seal it. And a week later or so, you got kale that has something like 200% more bioavailability of the nutrients in it, and that doesn't have the oxalates. And I remember when I was dealing with the kidney stuff, things that cause kidney stones are oxalates. So I don't know. Let's look at this and see if this was some kind of scam or not. And you should be able to see this. Do you have to, what did I call that? The morning. I just got up. I didn't have any I said a couple prunes for breakfast and a sip of coffee. Do you have to, what did I call it when you do that stuff, when you put the brine in it? Oh, man. Ferment. ferment kale? Let's see. Is fermented kale good? Fermented kale transforms fresh kale into a natural probiotic superfood, which is not only good for the body, but also amazing for the gut. Fermented beverages and foods like fermented kale provide good gut assistance. What vegetable should be fermented? Cabbage. Turnips. There is no vegetable you can't ferment. Okay. But the question is, do you have to? Do you have to? It didn't answer my question. See, Google's useless, but it's got 5,620,000 results. But it didn't answer my questions. Tips and a recipe for kimchi or something. How about is kale bad for you? Kale is one of the healthiest foods on the planet due to its high concentration of vitamins, minerals. Despite being high in blah, 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 research shows that a moderate intake of raw kale is unlikely to affect your thyroid. Well, whatever that has to do with anything. Plus, raw kale may be more nutritious than cooked varieties. Yeah, well, that's what I always thought. Is kale bad to eat every day? 1 or 2 servings of kale per day, some doctor. Can too much kale be toxic? The problem is not eating kale per se, but eating so much that you may be giving yourself low-level poisoning of toxic heavy metal thallium. What the? Can too much kale does kale have side effects? Is kale healthy? Cancer studies seem to show that kale is more beneficial than cooked, raw kale, while cholesterol studies seem to show steamed kale is more beneficial than raw, says Harris. Don't boil, saute, or stir-fry the veggie too long, with too much added liquid. Well, I've always just put it in the pot in like a soup if I was cooking it. Why is raw kale bad for you? Raw kale may be more nutritious, but it also may harm thyroid function. Is kale full of iron? I know that it is. Is kale bad for the kidneys? Let's see. All right. Is it okay to put raw kale in a smoothie? The raw kale flavor is strong on its own, but the other ingredients mellow. You can eat raw kale in a smoothie. See, this woman, and you can see some of that stuff is contradictory. And this is what I'm saying. I originally was going to call this show Information Overload. All right. And it's like I say, most people can't see the forest for the trees. But the idea is that there's so much information out there, and you could see 5 million results. I asked a simple question to Google, why, and I already have a show and shows on why my search originally was better than Google's. We'll see if we can stay on today longer than 20 minutes. Remember, they've been cutting me off for no apparent reason. Strong internet connection. Everything's working fine. I can see all my internal stats and stuff. So if I'm cut off because of them. And I don't know if I'll come back on like I did yesterday. I did a part 2. I mean, this is important stuff, and I don't see what the problem is. And by the way, ask your voice assistant to play my song Virtual Cage. If you have the Amazon one, by the way. Sounds pretty good on that one. And Game Over. And some of my other songs. And, get the iconic shirt, like here, with the, the iconic face on it. All right? Don't be afraid. These are comfortable shirts, by the way. Like I said, I always say, and they're comfortable hoodies as well. But see, this is a prime example of how they're poisoning us. And I was telling somebody, and I've told you folks before, but I probably get different listeners every day. There's nobody listening right now live. I'm broadcasting live at 5:34 a.m. Eastern Time in the Mid-Atlantic States on the 10th of May, calendar year 2022, in the former United States, if this somehow survives the upcoming cataclysms. Plural. Coal trucks. They got a new battery they're talking about now. There's an ad for Coca-Cola. They have a new battery that lasts for 28,000 years. I think I may have talked about that. They wrap nuclear waste in some kind of man-made diamond, and they put it inside of a battery. Now, I guess that would be good for some spacecraft that was going somewhere, or I guess on the planet Mars or something, right? You know? But, I don't know if I'd want to have nuclear waste in my pocket in a smartphone or a watch. And the thing is, in 2023, I think they're supposed to roll out the first use of this in a watch. So that means you're wearing on your wrist a, nuclear waste encapsulated in this, faux diamond, so to speak, like the cubic zirconium thing or whatever type of stuff. The whole thing of diamonds and jewels and bright and shiny objects to me is just so absurd. I mean, in the 21st century, no less. But anyway, that's not going to happen in time, and it's not realistic, and I don't know. Does it really matter? Go to Great Solar Stuff and get yourself a power backup. It'll be long enough for at least you to live out the rest of your days, if the fit hits the shan and whatever, and at least you'll have be able to play your music selection and have some lights and stuff like that. Work some small appliances or whatever. Grow a garden, like I said in many of my previous shows, detailed it. I'll be out in the backyard today, still wrestling with the rodent problem. I thought one of them was gone. It seems like I don't know. I plugged some holes yesterday, like amazing plug jobs. Going in my garage, I told you it's a mess. It's just filled with stuff that's accumulated over the past 5-6 years. And I was just digging underneath boxes and stuff like that and finding scraps of wood and stuff. So at least it's like I'm repurposing things, right? And since it is like wood and, it's going to eventually just become, soil, after man, like I talk about, so many years after man, everything just rots away to nothing. Even plastic and styrofoam eventually disappears. Where's proof of these previous civilizations you've spoken of? Well, if there was a civilization that was active here hundreds of thousands, if not a million years ago, even the plastics they had would have basically disintegrated. From dust you come and dust you shall return, and that includes everything man makes. Everything. That's why the only thing we have are rocks and things, carvings on rocks. Because it's the stones are the only thing that survive, right? I'm tired and I shouldn't be. I mean, because I went to bed around 7:30, or at least laid down to go to bed. The light was out. I mean, light was still up. Obviously, it still stays daylight. But it was a long day, and I just wanted to relax. I don't know when I fell asleep, but I should have gotten close to 8 hours. I woke up once or twice in a night. I don't know why, a cat or something. But there's no reason to stay in bed any longer, So here I am doing this show. We'll see I don't want to be like I'm on, walking on eggshells.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Let's hope they keep it alive so we can just do a show. I'm not going to do it the longest show ever made. So I'm just tired of having to it's a real process when they just close you down and then I've got to restart everything and try to. So game over. Yeah. So it's basically game over. It's like, there's so much stuff out there, so much information being thrown at you that the average person, and I myself included with some of this stuff, I mean, I try to keep abreast and in tune with much of the information that's out there, pertinent, but it's still information overload for all of us. It's just varying degrees. Some people are overwhelmed. Other people are just just sick of it. Or just tired of sifting through it. It's like that 5,600,000 results for me asking a question about kale and them thinking they should be embarrassed or that should, that's a negative, them putting how many search results they got, right? It's not humanly possible to go through 5 million results. Can't do it. I say this all the time, but it's worth repeating. How could you look at 5? You would spend the rest of your life trying to find an answer. And as you see, everything's contradictory or near contradictory. Yeah, boil it, or cook it, but don't put too much water in it. And this woman was having this video who was basically trying to tell you that there's all this oxalates and in all the healthiest vegetables. All right? This is this video. Now, how's she on why wasn't she taken down on YouTube? I'm not going to rat her out. I don't even remember her name or the name of the channel, but I wouldn't have rat her out anyway. But I'll talk about it just to show you demonstrate the absurdity of it. Why wasn't somebody like that taken down for misinformation? Or is that the true information? And what were all those results on Google? Is Google, that whole first page we looked at, guilty of misinformation? Yeah, think about it. You've been told broccoli, kale, chard, right? All these greens, leafy greens, spinach, leafy greens. And this thing, they were saying, oh, yeah, you've got to ferment this stuff in brine. And she even demonstrated that in a couple different, they do this in mason jars. And one of them hadn't been sealed right or weighted down so the brine didn't completely cover the kale. That's how you do it. I mean, I'll tell you how to ferment anything. You just shove the stuff in a mason jar, cover it with the salt water, which is basically what brine is. They recommend sea salt and water, right? 4 teaspoons of sea salt in a, I don't know, cup of water or something like that. I don't know what it is. It's something like that. You could find that out. But you got to cover it. But if you don't, and one of them, when she opened it up after 7 days, it was there was mold on the top of it. And she was trying to say, well, 90% of the stuff was still good underneath. It's I'm going to want to fork out this mold stuff off the top and eat what's underneath. I don't think so. There's something there's a reason there's certain things that we look at that make us go, yeah, right? That's like a safety mechanism by your bioelectric brain trying to tell you, stay away from that. It's like certain smells of things, some putrid, whatever. It's that's your body telling you, hey, stay away from that. It's because a good possibility it's gonna harm you. So I'm really I would almost go to the point of saying befuddled. That's a strong word. But it's I've been eating kale for years. Spinach, I used to eat spinach all the time. Leafy green salad every day. I'm out of it. Like I say, I'm out of it. Yesterday I had pasta and gained a couple pounds because I ate some egg noodles. Egg noodles. With a little cheap can of sauce that content said tomatoes and citric acid. I mean, there's a little can this big. Water. I threw in some chopped kale from my yard. Chopped onions, chopped bell peppers, red, a red and a slice of red and a slice of orange, healthy, the healthiest kind, and a bunch of seasonings, rosemary, thyme, that kind of stuff, all the good stuff, turmeric with black pepper, right? I had some minced garlic or some kind of garlic in a jar I put in because I'm out of fresh garlic too. I'm out of everything. Today I have to put in an order. So it's a question of whether or not I walk down the store, right, and do that to try to walk off these 2 pounds. I know I sound like some weird diet, person, but it's like important to me. I'm trying to maintain a weight for health and for sanity and the comfortability of clothes. But yeah, so, this idea of going, I don't really get it. So I'm left by that little adventure we went on in the beginning of the show, still not knowing. Some of those things said eat raw kale, it's healthy for you. Filled with vitamins. Some said steam it, And then there were all these recipes for this fermentation thing, but none of them were saying you had to ferment it in order to get for the bioavailability of what's in it. Said, I understand fermented things are good for the gut. That goes without saying. That's like kind of one of those things people know. But it's like, I got some sauerkraut in there. I'd have eaten some of that for breakfast, but that would have really upset my stomach. I don't think sauerkraut for breakfast is exactly the first thing you want to eat. But I was bending down, cleaning the cat litter and doing all that stuff, and I didn't get lightheaded or anything, so at least that thing has passed. So I don't know if that's because I've been trying to hydrate myself, or maybe because I did have a lot of had carbs yesterday, and I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I can't see the forest for the trees, and neither can you. And there's a million people out there trying to tell us things. And there's all these searches and all these websites and all these videos, and it's just you can't see the forest for the trees. That's why I say it's game over, man. And you may say, well, yeah, but you can go, yeah. No, they contradict. They contradict. Major sites. Like I say, I'm not going to mention them. But I'm talking about, sites that if I told you the name, medicalsites.com and, and of course .govs that have contradictory information. We've been through that. And so the idea is that, like, what do? They're trying to poison us. And like I said, we talked about that idea that the insurance company said that there was this ridiculous amount of people between, I forget the age, 18 and 49 or something, that there was a 40% increase in deaths among that group, the healthiest, which should be the healthiest group of people. And this had nothing to do with the plague thing. The plague thing was the one that killed mainly people over 60 or something like that. Even higher, 70 or something. So there's got to be something going on here, and this whole lack of what I guess my number one thing that bothers me right now, and why I say it is game over on top of all these existential threats of Earth cataclysms, solar novas, and all this other stuff, is the fact that for some reason, like yesterday, I think the president had a speech about trying to provide internet for people. And while all these things are fine, well and good, didn't he do it? Why would you do a speech? What kind of diversionary speech was that? What about the 40,000 people dying every week that I talk about every day because of foods? don't you think like these people you pay taxes that they should come on, if they're going to come on TV, get on stage and dance around, that maybe they could come up and talk to us maybe a couple times a year. Doesn't have to be every day. And like give some facts. See, they don't want us to live. They want us to die. I mean, it's the only conclusion you could come with. The government wants you to die. The corporatocracy wants you to die. And the media and politicians are marionettes of that corporatocracy. So big tech, big pharma, big med, big ag, military contractors, the Federal Reserve and Wall Street and all their, affiliated companies, right? Their singular goal is to reduce the surface population by a ridiculous amount of people. And you're sitting there watching it every day. Hey, look, there's a war on TV. Let's watch it. Maybe we'll get to see a body on the ground or something. People are morbid, sick, demented, and crazy. And they can't see the forest for the trees. The fact of the matter is the only thing that matters is health and happiness. All right? And something called love. I did a show once about love. Right? Love is a 4-letter word today, right? In a negative sense. People are afraid to even speak it, right? People don't fall in love. It's not like the big thing, teen, like if you listen to the old songs, teen love, the songs from the 50s and the 60s, it was all about love, right? Listen to some, it's hard to even find them because if you say, ask one of these assistants to play oldies or something, it plays like the weirdest songs that it considers are oldies, right? I mean, it might play everything from like Frank Sinatra or Bing Crosby to you might hear what an oldie is like Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons or like the Box Tops or Teen Angel, Dion, and you know what I mean? It's like you establish a format, it's called oldies, that's oldies, no matter what, okay? Not classic rock or prog rock, progressive rock is its own thing. Classic R&B is classic R&B. Disco, right? New wave, right? Hair metal, Seattle sound, alternative rock, all right? Hip hop, dance, right? Trance, whatever you want to call all these styles of music, right? Lounge. I used to do a lounge show, but they don't, but that's another thing that's like just not paid attention to they don't understand. They've like lost the oldies. It's like sometimes I'm sitting there, I'm sitting at my bar counter having lunch like yesterday. And I would love to have said, hey, name of device. Can't say it because it could hear me from the other room. Hey, name of device, play some oldies. And it would play like weird stuff. And I'm there, skip song, play the next song. And every now and then I get to hear something decent. But, for having these things and paying a monthly fee, that's what I'm saying. It's game over, man. This technology's just not working. I don't know. I got 20,000 songs and, you try to create playlists and I don't know. It's all out of whack. I was looking the other day. They had my music, Amazon. Like I was playing with my, I watched the YouTube on my TV through a Fire Stick, right? Fire TV, whatever you want to call it. And, they had like some of my music playlists and my songs somehow, I guess, are on the Amazon service. Not my personal songs. All my songs I've written are available to listen to. But I mean songs from my, my lists that it had uploaded. And some of those songs were songs that I had like a mix of Stevie Nicks live from some Westwood One broadcast and stuff like that. These aren't things available to But it was like music from my playlist, my own personal playlist. But yet I can't seem to find those things or get my voice assistant, so to speak, to dig at those playlists. It's just the technology. It's just really, it's not the quality of life. It's not targeted. Big tech doesn't target things for the quality of life of the average person. And they're not concerned with our health or happiness. And that's why it's game over. Okay? Plain and simple. No matter what. See, the scenario is, this is like game theory, and, this is a weird way of looking at life right now in the current situation we're in. But the thing is, no matter which way, what scenario you take, I talked about the path, the fork in the road path the other day in a show, and how it got overgrown and you couldn't even get back if you wanted to, even if you realized you took the wrong path. But what I'm saying is, when you're looking right now, the general path that we're on, forget about the fork in the road idea, that everything points to game over, us losing this game. Right? Because there are no, we're getting no facts. Now, there may be certainly some nutritionists, there may be certain doctors, there may be researchers, scientists, biologists, all sorts of people out there who have the answers, who've studied this and who have spent, 20, 30, a lifetime, and know the answers to these questions. All right? And in years gone by, those would be the people that would end up in like Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay? Right? I think there's like a guy walking down the street with like a white mask on. I've seen this before. Like, full white face mask on. There used to be somebody that used to walk down the street. This is even before the plague, like in a box. Like wearing a box. People are nuts. But what I'm getting at, is that with all of our information, it's information overload, we can't get a straight answer. Except for something so simplistic that having gone through any kind of school system, even if you didn't go to college, you should know the answer to that. Those things are easy. If you ask the basic elementary questions to Google, you usually at the top of the page will get the answer, right? Right? What's the capital of Pennsylvania, and it'll say Harrisburg, right? It's like, well, if you're from anywhere near that area, you should know that, right? But I mean, apart from some of the most basic things, right? Even, so health and happiness and love, because that's really what it's all about. Ultimately it's about love. And so a society that has basically taken away our health, right, works every day to like make us unhealthy. People are dying. They said that this was like, if there was this back to this report that came out, this is a massive report. This is millions and millions of people. This thing, because the insurance companies were reporting on deaths because they got to pay out the insurance policies. So this is real statistics, right? Not government, fudge statistics. And when they're saying that there's, there was a 40% increase in deaths between people between the ages of something like 18 and 49 or something like that. Let's see if we could find it again. It was topical for the day. And like I say, I it's information overload. increase in deaths of young. Let's see. Dying. That's leading. No, this. Let's put insurance companies with this and see if that like does. Here we go. You can see this now. This is NPR PBS. So even if you're on the far left, you should be able to like deal with this. Okay. So the real takeaway here is that forget about COVID and all that stuff. Here it is. Davidson said, all right, he's the CEO of One America. That's a $100 billion life insurance company. All right. This is particularly for an Indiana radio NPR affiliate. But here's what he says. First of all, the data is consistent across every player in the business. That means the insurance business. Davidson said rates among working age people, those 18 to 64, are up 40% in the third and fourth quarter of 2021 over pre-pandemic levels. This is the third and fourth quarter of 2021 when people were already had the thing in their arm, and you see what I'm saying? This is like after the fact. And he goes on to quote, just to give you an idea how bad that is, a 3 sigma, they classify it, like hurricanes, they classify things. They call them sigmas. Or 200-year catastrophe would be a 10% increase in pre-pandemic levels. So 40% is just unheard of. Okay, this is like the CEO of a major life insurance, and he's saying the data is consistent throughout the industry. In other words, people 18 to 64, I thought it was even younger than that, but still, working age people. All right. And he said a 10% increase in mortality among that group would have been like once in 200-year catastrophe. But a 40% increase is just completely unheard of, bonkers, basically. Bananas is, what's his face would say. The guy from Locals. Forget his name already. I'm not on Locals anymore. But do you understand that? The repercussions of that? That this is post-pandemic. This is, end of last year, after everybody, Yeah, so this is wackadoodle. So I see that I saw a little spinning thing up there. See, this kind of truth, they just don't really want this stuff out. And it's really annoying to me that they don't. So what do this is NPR, PBS, you know what I mean? So you can't have somebody out there saying, source please, or like, that's some right wing, or like some conspiracy theory. Hey, look, man, I'm not right. I'm not left. I'm nothing. I'm not political, man. I gave up on politics a couple of years ago. All right. I was into it. I played both sides of the game over my lifetime. I'd be honest with you. I was like leaning left and I leaned right. I was never an extremist on either side, but I leaned both sides. I was a centrist, and then I just finally, in the past 2 years, I just became a nothing. I'm not political. I just do a morning show, 600 some morning shows, and just every now and then something really absurd like that comes out, and then I will report it and show it to you. Generally, I don't, and then it won't go that far, other than me trying to justify and let you know that I'm speaking truth to power here, right? I go to Google only in an instance to demonstrate how it's not a viable source. So people are dying at an alarming rate, okay, which supports my thing that I've been saying every day. 40,000 people a week are dying of like ridiculous things, and you could verify those figures on the cdc.gov. We apparently have a government agency that our taxes go to called the FDA that approves these foods and drugs, but we're still dying. And if you have a TV, which I no longer have TV, but you know they're still on, there are ads on constantly from law firms suing pharmaceutical companies and other companies for things that were approved by the FDA. So our government is failing us, or intentionally, that would be the conspiratorial idea, but our government is failing us at the very least in health matters and, nutrition, because people are dying, and it's statistically, it's not even like it's off the charts is what this guy was saying. These are insurance companies. This is a dude that they've got, these companies have to pay out money for, insurance policies on these deaths. Right? 40% increase. What's killing people? This isn't a 2020 to 2021 or mid 21, the height of the pandemic, so to speak, time. This is post, right? These are people dying post, after the fact, after they've got the, the thing, the jab, or whatever you want to call them. So this has nothing to do with that. This is, in other words, he's saying that, people are just dying at an unprecedented rate. A couple million people a year is what it really amounts to, are dying from heart disease, cancer, kidney problems, diabetes, what they call type 2 diabetes, obesity-related things, all these kinds of things. They're all nutritional based. It all has to do with dietary, lifestyle and dietary things, but mainly dietary. So it's like that kale thing I started the show with. It's like, so what's the story? Do all these leafy greens and them telling us to eat these healthy leafy greens, are they all have this some kind of oxalated, acids in them? Oxalates, they call them for short. Because when I had kidney operations, see, I can speak to this because I've been involved in this. And, directly, because I had 3 kidney operations. To get some kind of giant stone out. I talked about that before. I'm not going to get into it. It grosses some people out. I'm alive. It happened a couple of years ago. I got through that. I'm fully functional at this point, as far as that's concerned. But, everyone tells you leafy greens, healthy, raw food, salads, eat this. And, suddenly I'm showing you this stuff. I just happened upon this it just came in my recommended list on my YouTube thing. It's like, what the? And I just so happened to have kale that day. I've been having more and more of these things. I don't know if this has happened to you, but I have other people. I talk to people occasionally. I don't talk to a lot of people because I'm isolated, right? But I mean, when I do talk to people, more and more people talk about these weird things that like they did, thought about, or just happened to them. And then it's somehow coming up in their recommended list, or they're getting ads or emails about it. And they're going like, I didn't visit a website about that. I didn't go shopping for that. I didn't talk to anyone about that. So are they already somehow reading our frickin' minds? It is the year 2022. Like I always say, it's the future, and people laugh at me, right? Well, like I said, they They had video phones and computers with mice, at the Xerox PARC project back in the 60s. The old World's Fair had some fantastical things that they presented to people 60 years ago. So is it really so far-fetched? I saw a lawyer at one of those Davos giving a speech. A lawyer. She was a lawyer. And she was making a presentation at the World Economic Forum, I think, like a year or so ago, talking about, I've said this before, about the legality. There were no legal issues of invasion of privacy or anything by reading people's minds. And I'm watching this video going, like, what did she just say? This is some, accomplished woman lawyer. And she's giving she's talking a serious presentation, in front of a crowd of, the ruling elite about there's no legal repercussions to worry about reading people's minds and using that data, and that they can't be sued for it because it's not an invasion of privacy or doesn't go against any existing laws, because the laws never conceived that would even be something possible. So, basically telling the crowd, go ahead and, read their minds. Thought control, thought police, is that next? I mean, we already have, we don't have freedom of speech, and, you say a word and that's offends somebody, but it also gets you kicked off a platform, or like they do on my show, they just like cut it off suddenly. Coffee tastes half decent. Yeah, so when you reach a point in this is, and people would call this the information age, I guess. Where you have all this information at your fingertips, and yet it's information overload. And most can't see the forest for the trees. Myself included. And all any of us are really searching for is happiness, right? Because like I say, you could strip everything down. It's like, there's the garbage guy. One of my garbage bags is like extremely heavy. It's like when they lift it up, the comment would be, I wonder if there's a body in that, But it's like, I lost my trend of thought. Damn, I hate when I do that. I shouldn't pay attention to that camera too. What was I trying to say? Go ahead, lift those big heavy bags up. One's real heavy. I had to double bag it and put duct tape on it. Yeah. Anyway, I know what I was trying to say. I was trying to say, and I've said this before in different shows in different ways, that like an equation, what they call an elegant, in physics, mathematics, the idea is an elegant equation is when you can take down this whole, giant chalkboard of, various calculations, mathematical symbols and numbers and all that stuff, and then break it down to something simple as E equals MC squared. Okay? That's considered that's like an elegant thing. I mean, you're breaking down. And that, what's behind E equals MC squared is like a ridiculous amount of, to prove that, it's a ridiculous amount of various, calculations, papers, the whole thing. Well, the same goes with the word happiness. Happiness is like E equals MC squared. And I'm not a big Einstein fan because I think he's wrong. He was wrong on space-time connecting the two of those together. Same with black holes, dark energy, and dark matter. I don't believe in those things, but that's a different story. Forget it. But let's just using that as an example. To me, happiness, the word happiness, is what life is all about. Happiness. Love. If be nice. If somebody's nice to you, you're happy. If you love, if you are in love, if you have love, if you love something, beauty of nature, all that stuff, truth, beauty, the arts, all that stuff. They all bring you happiness. So what I'm saying is the ultimate, the equation leads to equals happiness. Simple as that. If you're healthy, you're happy. So it's not even health and happiness. It would be happiness. And a society should be based on happiness. That should be our ultimate goal. If I were the CEO of a company, I'm going, is this going to make people happy? And everyone at the board would look at me like, how did we vote this guy in? Right? But it's like, that's what it should be all about. It should be about happiness. And the fact of the matter is no longer about happiness. There were times it was about happiness. Historically, even in the recent past of, say, 50 years ago or so, at least among some people, there are always people who they just can't deal with that. Narcissists, right? Narcissistic sociopaths, definitely narcissistic psychopaths. But those people are in charge now, right? That's who's pulling the strings, And, and like I say, put this up all the time. But they pretend they hide under this hypocrisy, but it's hypocrisy for profit. They claim like, oh, yeah, we're about all happiness and, we have more, moral standards, It's hypocrisy for profit. It's not about happiness anymore. So it's game over. And that's what I'm saying. No matter, forget about the fork in the road. No matter what you look at, it's game over. Because if we've lost touch with happiness, right, as the end game, right, as the end goal, as the purpose of us playing this game, going through this game, right? You want to deal with simulation theory or whatever. Or life is a game and you got to follow the rules and you play it to the end. Even in a religious context, you could still apply those ideas that you're born, you live a life, and it's a kind of a game, Hey, what's your game? Used to be a song, But it's a game, the game of life. And the end goal is happiness, and like I say, depending on what your perspective is, a religious person might say, were you a good person, right? Some narcissistic sociopath, or these World Economic Forum types, where did you accumulate a lot of wealth and power, That's not happiness. They try to buy their health and happiness. These guys, they have access to all kinds of things we don't. They know the truth. They know how to eat kale. Hey, how are we supposed to eat kale, man? Somebody want to give me an answer on that one? Are we supposed? Should I even eat a salad for the rest of my life? Without from putting it in a mason jar with brine and making sure that the brine covers it completely, or otherwise it's going to turn into mold? What are you talking about? This is this is insane. It's ridiculous, man. I don't know.
Back back in time, 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 back in time.
I'm ready to go back to
time,
eating, making pepperoni pizzas and eating frickin' ice cream. I was talking to my 88-and-a-half-year-old mother yesterday on the phone. She wasn't feeling too well the past couple days and stuff. She's getting old. She's sick. But she made it to 88 and a half, and I hope she makes it longer. Because she still sounds good on the phone when she doesn't have her ailments aren't acting up. She's still, been very, nice to talk to. Her mind is completely the same as it's always been. She lives far away from me, in Florida, in a place where they're like still under lockdown, despite what you hear on the news, like as if Florida's some liberal state and stuff. People still wear masks and they get stand at the door. They can't even go in her place, in her room. And she has her own apartment, and it's expensive, apparently. But I traveled so much, so I'm used to talking to my mom on the phone. And I talk to her on the phone now. It's the same as when I talked to her 40 years ago. Her brain and her voice. Her voice even sounds pretty much the same. So she's, she's a survivor, And, she never really was into eating she was never any kind of health nut type of person. She'd like butter bread, butter toast, and peanut butter on saltine crackers, or, you know what I mean? Treats, and stuff like that. She's like made it to 88. It just makes you wonder if the whole thing's just not like it's all an illusion and it's all ridiculous. Here I am wasting money on this expensive stuff, trying to eat these healthy things and stuff, and I'm wondering, what does it really matter? And I've had health problems and stuff like that. And then I read this kale thing. I don't know. It's like, it's almost like maybe I ought to just let the rat have my garden. What's the purpose? What's the porpoise of it all? Really?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. I'm depressed sometimes. I admit it. It's just crazy, It's just.
This is insane.
I got to put that back on a loop where it just keeps repeating and repeating. Remember when I used to do that? Let's see if that works again. Let's do this.
This is insane. 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 This is insane.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. Almost forgot.
Another hour. Science.
Yeah, another hour.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I'm not going to go that much longer. I'm trying to keep these shows a little bit shorter. No need to have these feature-length movies, The only problem is it's 6:23 a.m. If I end this show in the next 5 or 10 minutes, it's like, What do you do at that time? I guess I could walk to the grocery store. Yeah, they open at 7. Get some exercise. See if I could walk off one of those pasta pounds. And then maybe I'll just go out in the backyard and just lay in my chair and just get some sun, get vitamin D, sun. Saw this interesting thing about melatonin that was like kind of counterintuitive. That melatonin comes out of your pineal gland basically, and the sleeping idea is that light when it's dark, it's like this control we're programmed in a sense, but that actually melatonin is produced otherwise, and getting a lot of sun activates this melatonin in your body and will help you get a better night's sleep, among other things. The sun's just vitamin D and your immune system and all that other stuff. And that it's really much more important than people really give it credit for. And it gets back to nature and that idea that I've been saying is that we photosynthesize like plants. It's just a different, manner in which, our metabolism, works with the sun. But photosynthesis is like, it's kind of like that in a sense, just not the same as plants. But yeah, we're sun creatures, and the idea of, and we should be encouraged to be getting as much sun as we can. Yeah. So maybe I'll go out there and just get a bunch of sun. But, this idea of steaming kale, I can't help but going back to it. It's like, going through all this work when they're telling, my whole life I've been told to eat fresh vegetables and salads and stuff like that. Like it's the healthiest thing in the world, even doctors. And now it's like I got to go through some procedure in order to, so these things don't poison me or something. Or maybe that's my problem. I don't know. Can't see the forest for the trees. Information overload. It's game over no matter which way. Doesn't matter which character, it's like a board game or a video game, whatever. You pick your avatar, your little game board piece, whatever it is, and whatever you do, you're still going to end up, you're not going to end up with happiness. Right? You're going to end up with a pile of gold or victory. Right? Some sort of like negative thing, that as a child is fine, but as an adult, it's like, man, it's like me. I don't want a pile of money. I don't want a pile of gold. I don't want victory. I don't want to be proven right about something. Yesterday I was terrorized. I should have taken a picture. I was terrorized because for about 10 hours they were digging a hole, sewer, these people that would keep digging up. And it lasted until about 7 o'clock at night. That's why I laid down, because I was just like so out of it. I just like, oh, come on. I was going to put earplugs in. Happiness. It wasn't happiness. It was just like stress. It's this underlying noise, like constant machine equipment noise. And I was explaining, I was talking to my mother, and I was trying to explain this. I'm saying, do you understand? It's like 10 hours of noise, thumps, and the house shaking. I've already had like leaks in pipes and things like that because of the shaking. Physically, my bed was shaking. I said, it's like those things you see in a movie where people put a quarter in the old motel bed and the bed gives you like the bed shakes like some kind of massage thing. What the? So I hope they're not. I hope it was the corner that they had a problem with. I hope they're not doing this every so many feet and it's going to be in front of my house. I'll lose my house. This thing's going to fall over. I don't like going down the basement to begin with, man, because it's just a mess down there. I mean, it's clean, clear, clean. There's not a thing down there. I store nothing there. But I mean, it's just a basement, half concreted, dusty floor. The only thing I go down there is when somebody's fixing something to turn the water off in the wintertime so my outdoor hose nozzle doesn't freeze, and to occasionally spray bug spray and something like that to keep insects, keep insects from getting in. But I got to probably take a look down there to see if there's any leakage. Happiness. Love, happiness, health. But still, it's all about happiness. If you're in love, you're happy. If you're healthy, feeling good, you're happy. Right? It's like, it's this thing.
The station for more fun in the sun.
Fun in the sun. If you're having fun, you're happy, right? Smile on your face. Where did we go wrong? Where did society take that weird turn? It's like, and so it's game over, man. When you lose, when the goal of the game is no longer happiness, all right? If that's not the equation, the basic simplified equation, if that's not your E equals MC squared, it's game over. Forget it. And so, it's just as well that there's these existential threats, and, the sun's going to nova and wipe us all out. And volcanoes are going up. There's 50-some active volcanoes right now on the earth. And like guys like Bill Gates are still talking about putting stuff up in the atmosphere that dim the planet because of CO2, which is a trace gas, 0.004% of the atmosphere. It's not even 99.9% of the atmosphere is not, I repeat, not CO2. So how could it have anything to do with anything? What a crock. I bet you more than half the people actually believe that. I even hear people who actually kind of semi-know the truth about it say, well, man does contribute. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with magnetic fields, solar activity, long-term cycles, all kinds of other stuff, volcanic activity, all that stuff. A lot of the, they've discovered that like Antarctica melt and a lot of other melt is like geothermal. It's, subterranean type of stuff, right? Causing those problems. Melting ice and things like that. People just don't get it. The truth is not out there, at all. And all you have to do is do a Google search and you'll find out. Because you get 10 different answers to the same question. And sometimes the one at the top is wrong, is usually wrong or vague or weird, like the one it wasn't even the answer to my question. I asked a question. You're a computer. Your job is to answer my question, right? It's like with these voice assistants. They've got this AI, GPT-3, all this stuff. Capabilities are incredible of the technology. But you ask it a question and it's like, in so many words, it's saying this does not compute. But it's not like you asked it to solve something incredible. You asked it something simple. And it has access to databases. So what do they have the code algorithmic blocks or something? I mean, what's going on? Like I say, information overload. There's all this information. We were better off when you just had You had a bookshelf in your house, and there was an encyclopedia, and if you had a question, you went over to it. Because the editors of those encyclopedias, like Encyclopedia Britannica and stuff like that, those people were like complete, those were the total guys with multiple PhDs and boards. And in order for that, description, to get into an encyclopedia like that, that went through, it wasn't lightly just put in there, It's like I'd like to get. I think my brother has my family's old Encyclopedia Britannica, and I'm sure he doesn't use them, or he probably gave them away or sold them at a yard sale. I don't know how he ended up with them. He has no use for them. I'd like to have them. Because give me some truth, like the John Lennon song. I'd like to know the truth. I remember some of those books. My father read the Encyclopedia Britannica from cover to cover. And then he used to have extra books like Science and the Future and stuff. And then they would have they would put these books out like every so often that would be like, if new data came in, so that there would be like updates of information that might have been in the existing library, so that you would read those as they would come out. And they would be thick books too. Thick hardcover bound books, and they were big books, But I can remember the anatomy being in there, like with this on this see-through, like mylar, cellophane type of stuff, so you could peel away layers of the human body and see things, right? That stuff hasn't changed. You can't even find half that crap on the internet. You're trying to find the truth about anything. You got an ailment, you go to these sites, and one tells you to do this, one tells you to do that, one tells you to eat this, one tells you don't eat it, You go to a doctor and they say, cut it out, get the operation. Let's just cut it out. I get 40 or 80 grand for that, so whatever. So I don't know. It's game over, man. It's game over. Did you learn anything from this show? I don't know. It's not a class. It's just a thing. It's just...
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
That's all.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
It's an interesting insight and a way to pass the time. I guess I am going to go walk to the store. So that's what I'm going to do. It'll be exercise and something to do to pass the time, and I'll come back and I'll try to find some healthy food down there. And if I don't spend too much money, if I just get a few things, I'll also put in an order online, excuse me, and have some stuff delivered to the house. Though I hate doing that because they charge you delivery fee. It's a delivery fee and all that other stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. Visit ROCKFLUX.com. Again, my clothing line. Help, support the site. But, better yet, I think it gets the word out. For your own good, go to Great Solar Stuff. Get yourself some power backup, man. And two good companion pieces to this show are Then What and Codex, my two most recent books, which I highly advise, that you get in paperback form, in print form, not digitally, okay? Digitally, they don't translate. The software is it's another failure of software. Anyway, take care.
Good morning.
And we'll see you again sometime soon.